Today, we're going to talk about the 4 ways your relationship can go with any girl you date. There are only 4 ways, and I call them the 4 relationship conditions. Those conditions are: you can become underqualified for a girl, you can be overqualified, you can string her along, or you can actually have relationship potential. Now, we create the measure of our own success with women based on our actions. We create the way that they feel, and we create the way that they think about us. We do that by our willingness or eagerness with our words and with our actions. Hope that makes sense. So let's go a little bit deeper here. How do I create the condition of being underqualified for a woman? This is the most common thing guys do, and it's because we are eager with both our words and our actions. If you are eager with both your words and your actions, you create a feeling in a woman where you are underqualified for her. She feels overqualified for you. Let's break down how that happens. Eagerness in your words happens when you are telling a girl things like, you're beautiful, you're great. Any form of verbal validation that you give a girl tells her that she is overqualified for you. In other words, you tell a girl, you're beautiful, she's going to go, maybe I'm too good for him. If you're like, wow, you're really hot, maybe I'm too hot for him. If you're like, wow, you're really, really amazing at X, Y, or Z, wow, maybe I'm too good for him, right? So anytime you are showering verbal validation on a girl, she will start to feel, she'll have feelings associated with what you say, okay? If you pair that also with an eagerness to hang out with her any and every time, or eagerness with your actions, which is I always answer her text right away. I always call her right back on the phone if I missed her call. I always answer the phone if I can. I'm always enthusiastic. I'm always all those things. A girl will start to add up after a few instances of that. She'll start to feel like, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. I just get a bad feeling about him. Have you ever heard a girl say that? She's like, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Well, it didn't feel right because you are overly eager with both your words and your actions, and you are making a woman feel overqualified for you. Now listen, if she's on a date with you, is she overqualified? Probably not. She's probably already done the math on the way you look and all these other factors, and she's realized you guys are probably in the same zone of compatibility, right? So if from that point in time, your first interaction or whatever, if you create this condition commonly where you're underqualified, the most common way that guys, have it, if you create this condition where you're underqualified, that's your fault. That's you. She didn't do that. That's you. So as you might imagine, the best way to fix that would be to back off on the verbal eagerness, right? And in fact, when you are able to remove your verbal eagerness, right? You stop telling her things that are verbally validating. You stop saying things like you're beautiful. You stop saying, giving her compliments all the time. You stop doing all these things, but you still are willing to hang out. You create what I call a condition called boyfriend potential. This is where you're not verbally validating a girl, but she can, assess that you are willing to hang out with her. Does that make sense? So we're not verbally validating a girl, but we are willing to hang out with a girl. On the extreme end of not verbally validating, you could say things that are not necessarily traditional negging, which nobody likes, but you could say things that demonstrate that you are not verbally validating a girl. For instance, let's say, I was talking with a girl and I was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And you're a reasonably attractive girl. You understand when this and this and this happens. She would go, reasonably attractive? Like, I'm reasonably attractive? And I'd be like, well, yeah, you understand that this and this and this might happen. And then the girl would definitely know how I view her level of attractiveness. Now, what emotion do you think that might cause in a woman? She might say to herself, well, why doesn't he like me? Or am I good enough? That's a lot different feeling she's going to have than if you tell her she's beautiful all the time and then she starts to believe maybe she's too good for you or too good for the level of what you're used to experiencing in the beauty level of a girl that you're with. right? When you demonstrate that tolerance for beauty is what we call it. That tolerance for beauty is your pass kind of into dating women like that. You have to demonstrate that you're comfortable with her level of beauty. Make sense? Okay, so we were underqualified. We took away our verbal neediness and eagerness, and we became boyfriend potential. Now, far more uncommon but worth mentioning is the scenario where where you are overqualified for the woman. Now, when you get really good at not being eager with your words, you might start to have happen. This is a very, very, very good, very, very, very good thing. But when you never validate a girl, she starts to wonder, like, is this guy too good for me? Like, is this guy, you know, he doesn't really want to hang out with me that much, but sometimes he does. But then, like, he never tells me anything good. I'm not used to that. He's never told me something good, right? A girl might start to believe that you are overqualified for her. She might start to feel underqualified for you. This started to happen to me a long time ago. Not a bragging thing I'm saying, but as I started to get better with women, I started having this happen, and my friends would say, like, you know, you have to tell her sometimes that she's good enough, right? And I would go, oh yeah, and I would have to remind myself to say good things from time to time, right? That's a good condition to happen, but it can happen, and it's worth understanding. The last thing that can happen is you can string a girl along. Now, stringing a girl along happens when you are verbally validating, or you're eager with your words. There's some level of eagerness with your words, but you are completely willing not to go to the next step in a relationship, and you're not willing to, like, you know, commit. You're not willing to maybe hang out with her. You don't hang out with her that much, but when you do talk to her, you say things like, man, I really love hanging out with you. Just, you know, like picture if you are maybe a long distance relationship, or let's say you are off in, you know, the Navy, and you're on some ship somewhere, right? You would get on the phone and you would say, oh, I miss you so much. I love you. I can't wait to see you. All those things, right? But you still couldn't hang out with her. That's classic stringing along. Now, you can create that if you want to manipulate a situation. Like, let's say that your girlfriend is away for a while, and you want to, you know, have that situation work out where she feels emotionally engaged, but she's not there and you can't hang, or you're not there and you can't hang out with her. That's what stringing along is. If you really wanted to be manipulative about it, you know, the bad boy would use this to kind of string along a girl who he knew he didn't want to commit to, right? So that's stringing her along. But in the end, again, there's only 4 ways your relationship is going to go. You can be overqualified, underqualified, stringing her along, or you can have boyfriend potential. Now, there's one last note here, and it's on confusion. I want to talk about confusion for a second, because a lot of people get confused by things girls say and actions that girls take, okay? Whenever your levels of eagerness with your words and your actions don't align, you create confusion, right? So if you've been listening along correctly and intensely, you might understand that when you're eager with your words, but not with your actions, we know that that's stringing a girl along, and that's confusing. It's like, well, he says he likes me, but we just never hang out. What really is it? It's confusing. We call that confusion game, right? In other words, you are playing a game where it might be confusing, right, to a girl. It's less confusing when you string her along verbally, because you're telling her, like, I really like you. I want to hang out, all these verbally validating things, but then you can't hang out, and that's the confusing part. The opposite is true when you have boyfriend potential. A boyfriend doesn't really give her a whole lot of verbal validation, if any, a guy with boyfriend potential, but he is willing to hang out. So her girlfriends would be like, well, what are you guys? Are you guys hanging out? Are you guys going places? Is this going to work out? And she would say, well, he doesn't say that he likes me, but I know he likes me. He doesn't say it, but like I know he does. This is an ideal condition for you to create, and you create it by removing your verbally validating statements and the things that you do to verbally validate a girl. Take those away. Take away things like, you're beautiful, you're great, you know, oh my gosh, oh, you know, I love seeing where this is going. You know, the guys also say that all the time, like, you know, I can't wait for us to have, this is such a good relationship, and they want things to move further, so they verbally validate a girl. Big mistake. Big mistake guys make. So we want to be confusing, to finish out this confusion game talk. We want to be confusing, but we want to be confusing in the right way. We want it to be a little confusing that she doesn't know if we like her, but we are willing to hang out. That's the sweet spot. That's where you should end up. That's what gives you boyfriend potential, and that's what's going to make this work for you. So that is our talk today on the 4 relationship conditions. I hope you understand that you can create these for yourself. You can manipulate your standing with a woman. If you're underqualified, you can make it so that you're qualified enough. If you're overqualified, you can what we say called calibrate back, where you add or take away a little bit of either one of these levels of eagerness and willingness, and that's going to hopefully create the condition that you're looking for in your relationship. Thanks for listening.